Ooh, sorry guys, trying to get my phone on the charger.
Welcome to Loudmouth Sports Talk. Presents Ahead of the Curve. Presents the MLB free agent pick'em extravaganza. Our budget for the reverb was super low, so it was just me. Anywho, it's me and three total losers because they got nothing to do on a Sunday night. I got Damien over there. He does basketball, but he used to play baseball, so he thinks he knows things. We got Nick down there. He's a movie maker, but he used to play baseball, so he thinks he knows things. And we got Chris down over there also. He's a journalist, but he's also used to be a baseball player, so he thinks he knows things. I'm your host, Robbie. I don't do anything, but I used to be a baseball player, so I think I know things. Gentlemen, good to see you all.
We are stretching the used to be a baseball player to its furthest possible length. I played Little League, boys and girls. That is it.
Yeah, but you were like the 11-year-old home run champ of Oviedo, Florida, so that counts for something.
It counts for approximately nothing. Thank you.
Approximately. See, there's a little bit of leeway with approximately. So the free agent extravaganza was highly promoted, and there was a very deep pool of applicants, and they went through a rigorous screening process in order to get one of these highly coveted slots. Ultimately, we ended up with 5 candidates, these 4 and one who is actually protecting the future President Joe Biden on a Secret Service mission. I don't think he is, but that sounds cooler than whatever he is doing. So he sent me his picks, and I'm going to rattle them off here in a few minutes.
We had a pulse. That's really what the requirements were, I think.
We commented on a post.
Yeah, no, you're alive, your eyes both face forward, and you have either a computer or a phone. So that's enough for me. Basically, the rundown of how this is going to work, we've got 10 free agents, all under the age of 35, but all of them coming from other Major League Baseball teams. That'll be important later in the show. Top 4 of which being Trevor Bauer, JT Realmuto, DJ LeMahieu, and George Springer. The combined money that the 4 of them signed for is going to be our tiebreaker, so whoever gets closest to that number without going over is going to be the winner of the prize if 2 guys get the same number of free agent signings correct. Our top 10 free agents includes such luminary names as Marcus Semien, former shortstop for the Athletics and 2019 AL MVP candidate. Marcell Ozuna, who looked to be dead in the water as of last year and revitalized his career in a big way as a DH for Atlanta, which is a weird phrase. Masahiro Tanaka, whose up and down career is about as up and down as every ball that he throws because sometimes they're hit very far, and that's up, and sometimes they go right into the dirt and get swung and missed, and that's down. We've got Liam Hendricks, former closer for the Athletics, who is on a 2-year hot streak at age 33. Good for him. Andrelton Simmons, who is the defensive god of the today, and Michael Brantley, who's finally healthy in his mid-30s for the first time in his career. So we're going to go down there to knock Nick. Nick, who are your picks? Show us your screen.
Okay, Nick, thank you very much.
I know what it is. I like messing with you.
I don't know if I can turn camera.
Yeah, show us that.
Share the notepad, not share the screen.
Sorry, yeah. Share your pad with us.
All right, okay. Can I camera? Oh, yes, I can. Okay, here we go, guys.
Maybe.
He's figuring out the tech. He's a lot older than he looks.
He's a lot older than he looks.
The suspense is just gripping here. Oh my God!
All right,
He got it.
so Nick, give us a little rundown of your guys there. Tell us all about it.
Okay, I did it in the same order you did it in the messages. I got Trevor Bauer going to the Dodgers for 4 years, $128 million. He said he wants to play for a contender, and obviously the Dodgers just won somehow, some way. And, they got a high payroll just like the Yankees, so that's my guess personally. I'm not quite as in-depth as you guys, but I follow along a little bit. So that's my guess for Trevor Bauer. JT Realmuto for the Mets. Steve Cohen got that big money, 5 years, $125 million. Like I said, I really had a hard time not putting the Mets on every single one of these players because, Steve Cohen got that. I don't know if y'all actually looked it up. My man has money. George Springer, I got him going to Astros. This is probably a bad guess on the length of the contract, 5 years, $105 million, but I think he's going to stay loyal to Astros just because that's where, he got caught with trash cans and all that shit, so I don't think he's going to go anywhere else. Excuse my French. DJ LeMahieu, I think, is going to go to the Blue Jays. 4 years, $68 million. He wants a larger, more expensive contract. Blue Jays need a veteran in the infield, and so I think that's what's going to happen. And I'm a Blue Jays fan, so Blue Jays / Marlins, so, that'd be pretty cool. Marcus Semien.
You have to be the only Blue Jay / Marlins fan in existence. That has got to be a very, very small Venn diagram.
Right, it really is. Well, look, the thing is, my little baseball teams I played on growing up, first one was the Marlins, second one was the Blue Jays. It stuck with me ever since. So, that's how it goes.
I was a Little League Marlin for a lot of years. I totally understand that.
So, I ought to show y'all later. I got the 1997 World Series license plate in my room.
Oh, shit.
But anyways, I got Marcus Semien going to the Angels on a 1-year, $14 million deal. I think he's probably only going to be able to get a 1-year contract, so that was my guess. Whether it's good or not, we'll see. We got Marcell Ozuna going to the Nationals on a 4-year, $72 million deal. I almost put the Braves, that he was going to go back to the Braves, but I forget what it was, but there's some type of complicated contract thing with Will Smith or whoever it was, I forget. But so I don't know if he's going to make it to the Braves, so that's my guess is the Nationals. Masahiro Tanaka, I think he's going to stay with the Yankees. Like you said, he's got that up and down career, and I think he's comfortable in New York, and that the Yankees are willing to keep him as a rotation guy. So I got him 3 years, $39 million. It's probably too much money. But I got Liam Hendricks going to the Phillies for 3 years, $30 million. I actually don't know too much about Liam Hendricks. I know this is a baseball show. I'm supposed to know about it. Sorry, it's what it is. And Drelton Simmons, I got him going to the Yankees on a 1-year deal. I think he's one of those players that's only going to be able to get a 1-year deal. And the Yankees have a high payroll, so they got the money to spend if they want to. And Michael Brantley, he's an outfielder, right, I believe? And,
yeah.
I have him going to the White Sox because the White Sox were my dark horse pick to win the World Series this past year, which is probably a horrible dark horse pick. But I thought it would have been really interesting. Giolito threw the no-hitter in the season, which was a great little game. I actually watched that game. And then my tiebreaker number, I spent way too much money if this was fantasy baseball, and I got $426 million, so I'm probably out of there on that one. Those are my picks.
All right. We like that.
Can I butt in and just say that the White Sox were not a bad dark horse pick to win the World Series?
Not at all.
No, honestly, they surprised the hell out of me. They were not supposed to contend this year. They were supposed to contend next year, but they look ready.
How about Jose Abreu at his age winning the most valuable player out of nowhere?
I would disagree that he was the most valuable player, being a homer.
Yeah.
But he was outstanding.
First base. Soft spot for Jose Abreu. And if you go watch the no-hitter, footage. He made a crazy, it's really simple, but a crazy play, a horrible throw on the inside of the base path, and he grabs and tags the runner out. And to say, like, I'm gonna, because a no-hitter you need good defense and a little bit of the umpires. But it was a great defensive play by Jose Abreu. I really like him.
Yeah, his defense. Statistically, his defense held up this year. It's kind of the first time that it ever did that in his career. He's never really been known for his defense, but he graded out as a positive as a defender. So that's a big reason why he ended up so high on the leaderboards for wins above replacement, and has nothing to do with why he led Major League Baseball in runs batted in. That's more a function of the guys being on base in front of him and him knowing how to hit timely. So, he was a good pick for MVP. He deserved it. He was the most valuable player to his team probably in baseball. I mean, he was the heart, soul, and engine of that team, and they would be foolish. They would have been foolish to let him walk. So thankfully they locked him up for a very reasonable 3-year extension. Otherwise, he'd be number 4 on this list ahead of Springer.
Great player. Probably my favorite first base in the league right now.
Yeah, I mean, he does nothing wrong. He's a glue guy and a superstar all in one. I mean, he's exactly what you want leading a young team if you got to have an old guy on your young team. He's the guy for it. Well, Nick, we like those picks, but do we like them as much as Chris Boyle's picks?
Let's find out.
I guess we'll find out. All right, so I'm going to try to share the screen here. Let's see. Let's see if it works.
I believe in you, old man.
Hold on.
Come on, Mr. Sports Writer.
Mr. UCF graduate.
Let's see. Yeah, let's see if that
Listen, man,
pays off.
Florida education ain't that great.
Don't get me started. I was in the sea, man.
All right, can we see him?
No, sir.
Yes, we can.
Hello. Right. All right. Well, I've got Trevor Bauer, similarly to Nick, going back to California. That's where his roots are. But I've got him going to the Padres. I think they've got a bigger need for a frontline starter. The Dodgers are already built to win right now, as they've done, but the Padres may have the higher ceiling with players like Machado and Tatis on that roster. I think it's going to be a very appealing chance for him. I mean, he's going to walk into a Dodgers rotation and just be kind of like one of, he'll be just another horse in the stable if he goes there, but he could realistically be the man in San Diego. And on a 2-year deal, a lot of talk with Bauer has been about not wanting to tie himself down to a long-term deal to give himself options and keep his career path open. So I think 2 years at $72 million isn't a particularly big risk for the Padres. They can get out of that deal just after 2 years, and it's frontline starter money at $35+ million a year. So I think it kind of works for both sides and gives the Padres exactly what they need to potentially challenge the Dodgers and the other teams in the National League for the pennant. The Mets I have being very aggressive. We've touched on Steve Cohen's takeover worth $14 billion. And I do think you'll see that money make a big impact right out of the gate. With George Springer, I think that's a player that they're going to try to bring in as a luxury. I don't think it's maybe the best fit. You could argue Boston, considering his ties with Alex Cora. You could talk about the Astros for comfort's sake. You could talk about St. Louis, a team that's reportedly really wanted him. But I think the Mets do have a hole in center field. They could move Brandon Nimmo to left, and it would make a lot of sense for them in the long haul to bring in a bat at the top of the order. They've really struggled from the leadoff spot for productivity. So I think it makes sense in the short term if they want to contend for the World Series, and that is the goal within the first 3 to 5 years of Cohen's ownership, to go for it with Springer. And JT Realmuto fixes the biggest hole in the lineup with arguably the best player in position in baseball at the position. So I think the number one target for the Mets will be Realmuto. I do think if push comes to shove, that's the player they're not going to budge on. They're going to try to bring him in. He's played his entire career in the division, knows all the pitchers, knows all the hitters, is a really good two-way catcher, a good defender, a great offensive player. The one player I don't think the Mets can leave free agency without. So I have him for 5 years, 120. Similar to Nick's price, I have Springer for 6 and 168, works out to about $28 million a year. I don't think LeMahieu leaves. I don't think the Yankees can let him leave. He's been their most important player the last 2 seasons. So I don't think he walks. I think the Yankees, I know free agency has been a different adventure for the Yankees in recent years than it's been, within the previous decade. But, the one thing the Yankees have always done with their financial might is keeping players that are within their own system and keeping players on their own roster. So I don't think you're going to see that change. I think he stays, and I think Masahiro Tanaka stays as well. They can't afford any sort of blip in the rotation to lose that depth. And Tanaka eats innings and is a genuinely reliable pitcher in a lot of situations. The shortstops, Marcus Semien, I have going to the Reds. I think on a short-term deal, a prove-it type deal. They've got a hole there. Hitter-friendly park, kind of the opposite of Oakland. So I do think Semien's power would translate really well there for a Reds lineup that could use it. You put him with Moustakas, you put him with Votto, Suarez, Senzel. They've got a really good team, and they're not far away from being a contender, especially if they can convince Bauer to stay, which maybe financially is a little bit of a challenge, but certainly from a competitive standpoint, they're going to be in the mix if they can bring in a shortstop. So I think Semien going there is a fit. I have Andrelton Simmons going to Cleveland because I think Francisco Lindor gets moved. There aren't a great deal of vacancies for shortstop that make a lot of sense. Simmons is a really good defender, graded out negatively this year, though, oddly enough, in the 30-some games he played for the Angels, but his offensive numbers were better than expected. So I don't think that necessarily translates over 162 games. I think he is going to be still a very good defender, can be a sensible stopgap for the Indians when they inevitably lose Lindor, whether it's in free agency next year, or more likely in trade this winter to get an asset for him. Liam Hendricks I have going to Philadelphia, a team that's in constant need of bullpen arms. I think they'll make him a priority, and I think he's the best reliever on the market, so the Phillies are going to want to go after it hard, and they need everything they can get to stay competitive in that division now with the Mets and the Braves and the Nationals and even the Marlins. You know, no one thought about the Marlins being a playoff team, but they sure as hell surprised some people. And then I've got Michael Brantley going to Toronto. We talked about Toronto, that young core they have, so I think Brantley gives them a good veteran presence at a potentially cut price, given his injury concerns and his longevity. I think he makes a lot of sense to plug in the outfield and hit in the middle of an order that's still a lot of guys getting their feet wet and logging major league at bats. But if they can have a guy in front of Guerrero or Gurriel and those players that has that level of experience, that can DH if necessary to stay fresh, I think it makes a lot of sense.
That's an interesting pick. You've got Bauer going to the Padres. That was actually going to be my second choice for him if I didn't go with the team that I did pick. For every reason that you said, they're a team on the rise. They're a team with a hole at the front of their rotation. He'd be able to go back and team up with his buddy Clevenger, who also is a guy that Major League ownership doesn't like because he has a personality.
Well, Clevenger's out for the year now. They just ruled him out with Tommy John, so he'll miss all of 2021, and
he'll be around. He'll be around for 2021, but yeah, once he gets back to playing in 2022, that'd be that second year of that contract you got on Bauer. I mean, that's what
I'm saying. The urgency is there for San Diego to get a frontline starter, and whether they want to do it through the trade market because of the prospects they have, whether they want to potentially put Mackenzie Gore in that situation out of the gate, is a question that they'll have to answer. But if they want to have a surefire answer to the question of what are we going to do at the top of our rotation, along with Chris Paddock, I think Trevor Bauer is certainly the most emphatic way to answer that question.
Don't forget about Dinelson Lamet.
And LeMay, of course, yeah. LeMay, when he's been healthy, he's been very electric. So, but yeah, I think Bauer takes them to a different level of contention if they can get that deal done.
This is going to sound ridiculous coming out of my mouth, but it's not ridiculous in practice. There's a chance for a White Sox-Padres World Series in the next couple of years.
That was my guess this past year. Obviously, didn't happen, but I would love to see that. San Diego. I love what they got going on out there.
If I can't watch my own team in the World Series, I would love to see a White Sox-Padres World Series. The youth and exuberance and personality that those two teams have is enough to make baseball great again. To steal
Robbie's got a major crush on Tatis.
Yeah, I'm about to switch our background from Scrooge McDuck diving into the free agent pool to our Lord and Savior Fernando Tatis and his golden locks.
Baby.
I think the Mets are obviously the team to watch, though. And when we talk about Lindor, I mentioned Simmons. I think they're a player for Lindor too. I think you're going to see the Mets at an all-time level of aggressiveness, considering the relative dearth of financial power in the market because of the coronavirus pandemic. The fact that we've seen so many stagnant off seasons in the past, and now you've got this fresh owner with an endless sum of money that's ready to make the Mets competitive. I think you're really going to see them be incredibly aggressive, and they've got holes. They need a catcher. They need an outfielder, preferably an everyday center fielder. They need at least one, if not two, starting pitchers. They need another arm in the bullpen. They may need a corner
as well.
Yeah, they probably need a left side of the infield player too. Whether they believe in Ahmed Rosario or Andres Gimenez long term, kind of remains to be seen. I think that would be their middle infield if push came to shove right now. But you got to remember too that they've got $24 million that just came off the books this weekend when Robinson Cano got suspended for the entire season. So there's an extra level of financial flexibility that the Mets have to make an impact.
All right, now that we've gotten through the Mets portion of the show, the Mets segment, we are going to dive in a little more to the Lindor situation after we talk about Korean super prospect Ha-Sung Kim from the Kiwoom Heroes. But moving right along, Damien, Doug. Who are your picks? You are the guy who follows baseball the closeliest.
Before I get into where I have players going, after listening to Nick and Chris, I actually don't feel like I sounded stupid as I thought I was going to before the show started.
No, it's just your announcement.
That's what I'm here
proud.
for. Glue guy.
I'm a little proud because if them two are both saying relatively what I'm thinking, it means I did a good job.
All right, show us your good job.
Share screen.
Show us your 2 thumbs up there, baseball genius stuff.
Application window, share. There we go. So I've got Trevor Bauer to California, back home. He is from North Hollywood, but unlike Chris, I said he's going to the Dodgers. He said he really likes the way LA looks, and once again, he wants to play for a contender. Why not go to the reigning champs? And no, I don't know pretty much anything about baseball except the highlight clips that show up on the Loudmouth Sports Twitter timeline. So feel free to correct me if I say some dumb stuff. JT Realmuto to the Mets seems about right for me. And just hearing it from Chris, the lifelong diehard Mets fan, I'm good with it. George Springer also to the Mets. Just doing some little DNR. LeMahieu, again, he's coming back to the Yankees, and now that I've heard 2 people say that they can't let him leave, good with me. Simeon to the Reds is where I'm thinking, just based off of reading different prospect profiles for him. Ozuna back to the Braves. Tanaka stays with the Yanks. I didn't really see too much on different MLB experts saying about Hendricks and exactly where they think he's going to sign. It's more of complete speculation, like less speculation than all the other players. So I have question marks there, but I believe it's going to be the Phillies. The Simmons not back, but to the Phillies, and then Brantley to the Astros. Again, I don't really know much about the MLB, but just reading my 45 minutes of research.
Touching on your
better, Damien, if it makes you feel better, I just realized that I forgot to predict Marcell Ozuna entirely. So let me do that now.
To the Mets.
I have him staying with the Braves. I think he stays in Atlanta. Why give up a good thing? He turned his entire career around there, and they're right on the doorstep too. I wouldn't leave there if I was him.
Well, Damien, touching on your point about Hendricks, the reason why there's such a buckshot of speculation around him is every team needs bullpen arms. There are 30 teams in Major League Baseball that could use a reliever of his caliber. And while he won't come cheap, any team with a hole at closer, which is like 27 of them, could really use him at the back end of their bullpen for a couple of years. He's looking pretty damn good. It seems like every few years there's a reliever in his early to mid 30s who's having like this late career renaissance. And it looks like Liam Hendricks is kind of that guy now. He's always kind of been, middle of the pack, slightly better than average, middle of the pen guy, never a closer. And now with the Astros, the kings of Moneyball, they found him on a cheap deal and made him worth something. So yeah, anywhere he goes, he's going to cash in, and anywhere he goes is going to get a quality arm. There's been a couple of good bullpen arms in this class between him, Ken Giles, who's going to miss some of the season, maybe the entire season, but if a team can get him on a multi-year deal, he's electric. And Kirby Yates, I actually was thinking about, when I was doing my own projections, I was thinking about Hendricks to the Phillies, but Kirby Yates to the Phillies makes just a little bit more sense. He's going to come at a little bit lower price point. They've already got a kind of a bloated payroll, and Yates is every bit as good as Hendricks. So,
and then in the case of a tiebreaker, I have that total number of millions being at 375.
You must be one who's thinking Bauer is signing that short-term deal with that number of millions.
Just about, maybe. You kind of. I had a higher number, and then whenever you were saying that you think he might sign that 1 year just to see what he can do and get into free agency last year.
He had said previously that he's willing to go year to year, and now this is dating back a few months or a year of him saying this. He's willing to go year to year. He's willing to bet on himself anywhere he goes. I think this is. I mean, he's already about to be 31 years old. He's not the youngest free agent guy, so maybe the team doesn't want to throw him a multi-year commitment. They want to throw him, just a couple of years at a really high dollar value. I don't think he says no to it, so you might be on the right track with that.
Yeah.
My number was 410 for all four guys.
Okay, so we got 410 for Chris. We got 375 for Damien. Nick, yours was 426.
Robbie, are you taking $1?
I'm taking $1.
Yeah, for Price is Right rules, $1.
No, I will not be taking $1.
Closest but not over. So if everybody goes over, and
Yeah, that's what I'm
I mean,
saying. Has nobody watched The Price is Right, for God's sake?
I do.
If the closest
Don't
happens
worry.
to be the only, if you can go over and be the closest, like if it ends up being a total of 410, or if it ends up being a total of 400 million even, Chris is the closest at 410. It's going to be Chris who wins. But if somebody has 390 and somebody has 410, I'm going with under. So
That's fair.
that's on the table.
Stop sharing.
All right, I'm gonna throw Brian's picks up there. Brian Lastman can't be with us tonight, but he is every bit as much the baseball aficionado that the rest of us are. Perhaps less than Chris, just because.
Did he used to play baseball?
I don't actually know. I only know him from being in a fantasy football league with him, but he seemed interested, and his
These
picks
are the
actually make some sense.
questions that people want to know.
I would assume that he used to play baseball because, well, so did everyone. He did not put dollar values for the top 4 free agents, but he did put his combined total at $389 million. He seems to be in the same. Yeah, he went Mets heavy. He seems to be in the same vein as Damian, going with the combined total a little bit lower. He's thinking that the Mets are not going to be able to make a convincing long-term play for Bauer, but they are going to look pretty tasty in the short term. Real Muto to the Mets, we kind of across the board have that one. I'd be surprised if he went anywhere else. LeMahieu back to the Yankees. It only makes sense. They need him, and he wants money, and they have money. George Springer to the Mets. Again, they need an outfielder. He wants money. They have oodles of money. Simeon to the Reds makes sense. There's a hole there, like Chris said. Ozuna back to the Braves. Same thing. They loved him in the middle of the lineup. He's got a big fat bat, and he's adequate protection for a guy named Freeman. Tanaka to the Blue Jays. That's a team that makes sense for him, I would say. They've got consistent problems in their starting rotation. He seems like another guy who could hold it down. They had some luck with their last Japanese import, so I think he'll be Ryu's Korean. They had a lot of luck with their last Asian import pitcher. So a couple of them at the top of the rotation throwing their low hit, high home run value games. Liam Hendricks of the Phillies, another one. Phillies have had bullpen issues since the beginning of time. Andrelton Simmons to the A's. He's got the slick glove, and Simeon's about to leave, so that's a defensive upgrade, offensive downgrade. And Brantley going home to the Astros again makes sense. Why? Like how we were saying about a couple other guys, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Him going back there. So now I'm going to go to my picks, which I can actually give a little bit more insight on because I made them. First, perhaps surprise of the night, I've got Bauer signing with the Angels. Artie Moreno has always liked to throw his financial checkbook around. He's never been shy about signing people to big deals, even if they shouldn't be. I'm thinking Bauer signs with the Angels for $35 million a year over 4 years, but with an opt-out after the second. Obviously, that doesn't matter for our purposes because we're going total money. They might even be front-loaded just to make sure that he gets piggity paid and then give me even more incentive to get the fuck out of town. But no, he wants to go home. He wants to play for a team with a little bit of an upswing. And, the Angels, for what it's worth, they still have the best baseball player on the entire planet until Fernando Tatis comes around in Mike Trout. Anytime you've got the best player on the planet, you've got a chance. And even if you're the Angels, who are lately poorly coached, poorly run, and poorly produced. JT Realmuto to the Mets, I think we all have that on our boards. $25 million a year for the best catcher in baseball just makes sense. DJ LeMahieu at 3 years for $65. I was really hesitant to give him that 4th year, as the Yankees will be. That might end up being what prices him out of town, is him wanting a 4th year, but I don't see the Yankees going more than 3 years, and $65 million seems like adequate compensation. Springer to the Cardinals. I've seen this on a couple of sites where the Cardinals they might be looking to make that big swing, make the most of the last few years of Paul Goldschmidt, and Springer kind of fits the bill. They don't. Harrison Bader's a dog shit hitter. You can play Springer at either left or right field if you need to. If you've got if the NL ends up adopting a DH, that makes it even easier. And he's got a big bat, so he's ready to play. Marcus Semien going across town. The Dodgers may have a hole in their infield if Justin Turner ends up walking or getting sick again. So Semien could end up playing shortstop or third. They could end up moving Seager over to third at some point because he's 6'4" with a cannon, and that just happens to guys who are 6'4" with a cannon. They end up moving to third. Marcell Ozuna, he's going to go over to the White Sox, I think. They could always use a bat, even though they have 9 of them. Here's a 10th. Masahiro Tanaka to the Braves. They lost every starting pitcher except for the young ones this season. So they just need somebody in the middle of their rotation to eat some innings. And, Tanaka's own injury issues might make that a little iffy, but you got to believe in him at some point. Liam Hendricks of the Padres, that's another team that might be a couple of relievers or a closer away from contention. They got to win the ends of games. They got to not get gunned down by Dodgers twice in a week. And, if you're ahead by 3, you can't lose by 1. So Liam Hendricks of the Padres just makes a lot of sense for me to take over their closer role. The Cubs look like they might have to make a last-ditch effort to play some quality baseball, and Andrelton Simmons seems like the kind of guy they can pick up on a short deal to do that. He's still an elite infielder. He had a rough year this year, but he also missed some games in an already shortened and weird season. So I'm not going to hold that against him. He's still probably the best defender of our generation. And then Michael Brantley staying with the Astros just makes sense. He's 33, and in my eyes, that's just ancient. I don't see him going anywhere. He's just going to stick it out with the Astros on a bloated 1 or a team-friendly 2-3 year deal to just close out his career in trash can Houston. Combined total for the top 4 is going to be around $450 million. I am believing that the Angels are going to throw those extra years at Bauer, and he's going to take them in the form of an option. And that extra $70 million could be what puts it over, into the big bucks. So, boom, there they are.
I want to throw out a dark horse team for a couple of these guys. A team that none of us mentioned as a potential landing spot for anyone on the list, and that's Boston. They're coming off of an absolutely terrible year. They've got Alex Cora as returning to manage. That's not a fan base that's going to accept a full-blown rebuild, if you ask me. So I do think that you're going to see Boston get in the mix with a couple of these guys, whether it's Bauer, considering how bad that rotation was last year, or Springer, because of the connections and the fact that he grew up in Connecticut. I think a lot of people seem to think that Springer could be a prime candidate for Boston. My concern is just whether he wants to get back in there with Cora, considering the maybe the public image of how that might look.
Yeah, the implications on that might be too great, but I don't see the Red Sox making a big play. They made it pretty clear last season, the season before, that they are not super intent on spending money right now. They are looking to be cheap up in Beantown, and that might last for another season or two. I've got it lasting at least this season also. Maybe they were just waiting out the Corona year, but, it warms my little heart to see the Red Sox struggle, so I didn't want to give them anybody on this list.
My little pinstriped heart.
They can eat it. But I don't see them making a play for any of these guys. I could see them maybe looking to retain Jackie Bradley Jr. if the price is right, but if he asks for more than $8, $9, $10 million a year, I think he's out of town too. They're going to end up looking for young guys to replace him. One potential young guy that any rebuilding team could want, moving on from our free agency extravaganza into even more free agency, Ha-seong Kim, Korean wonder prospect from the Kiwoom Heroes. I know a couple of us have just started doing our research on him as of about 37 minutes ago, and are probably less excited than me for him. But to give everybody the rundown, he is 25 years old. He's kind of fast. He's got a great glove. He's got a little bit of pop in his bat. And the Korean baseball organization is posting him this year. And what that means is the American baseball organization, Major League Baseball, can, teams can offer to pay a price to the Kiwoom Heroes. And whatever team meets that price has the opportunity to negotiate with Ha-seong Kim. Does anyone have a projection as to where Ha-seong Kim could end up? Is there a team with some money? Damien, looks like you've got some opinions.
So whenever I was doing the research approximately 37 minutes ago, it piggybacks right off of what Chris was saying with the Indians losing Francisco Lindor, as much as that pains me to say. But I feel like they'll end up picking him up to quote unquote replace Lindor, because they are going to lose him at some point because he's going to be too expensive for them, and I even know that. And no matter where Lindor ends up, whether it be from Pittsburgh to LA, wherever.
Not Pittsburgh.
It's going to be an upgrade. No, Pittsburgh won't be able to afford him either. They'd trade everyone.
Pittsburgh has approximately a $14 payroll.
Why do you think they develop players, get rid of them when they're trash, and then they all of a sudden become all-stars on whatever team they go to?
Austin Meadows. I am going to do a little counterpoint with each of y'all's projections for Ha-seong Kim from the Kiwoom Heroes. Point in favor of Damien. Yes, they are going to be looking to replace Lindor at some point because I don't see them not trading him this offseason. He's got a whole year left on his deal. His value is never going to be higher. Get rid of him and bring back a nice haul of prospects. Counterpoint, the Indians are getting rid of him because they don't want to pay him. And Ha-Seong Kim could command a little bit more money than they want to spend, given that he is an uber prospect, and being that he's got a little bit more professional experience overseas than a guy like Shohei Ohtani had when he came over. He's going to sign for a bigger contract. It's going to be in the millions. It might even be close to 10 a year, and that might be too much for the Cleveland Indians to put up. So, Chris Boyle, what do you have for Ha-Seong Kim from the Kiwoom Heroes?
Well, I think a lot of times the players in the coming from overseas, you tend to look in the West. I think it's kind of the easiest transition you see. I was looking at the Giants. I think is a possibility. Brandon Crawford's been a loyal servant and a very good shortstop for a lot of years, most of their title runs. So eventually they're going to need to have an answer behind him. So I think that's one option. I think the Indians make a lot of sense. And I think you could even look at, if the Cubs are trying to shed payroll, one of the guys that they've been rumored to potentially move would be Javier Baez. So if that ends up happening, I could see the Cubs maybe getting in the mix here too.
All right. Of those three, if you had to pick one, who would you have to say?
San Francisco.
San Francisco. Point in favor of San Francisco. You're absolutely right. All these guys from the Pacific Rim, they love to go to California. They love to go out west, out California way. I guess it's west for us. They like to come east to California way. But they are going to have a hole at shortstop in the next couple of years. And in the meantime, one of Crawford or Ha-Seong Kim from the Kiwoom Heroes could play second or third base as they're waiting for Crawford's legs to finally give out. Counterpoint, Giants suck. Nick.
Counterpoint, they made the playoffs.
They should. Come on.
Enough to have an official, formal opinion, to be honest with you, so I'm just going to say, the Mets, baby. It's Steve Cohen.
Financial daddy.
Point in favor of the Mets. Steve Cohen has a giant financial wiener, and he is looking to throw it around this offseason and make some big moves. Counterpoint against the Mets.
Daddy Steve.
Counterpoint against the Mets. They seem to like Ahmed Rosario, and if they do make a move this offseason, it's going to be for pitching and outfielders and catchers and pretty much literally every position on the diamond except for second base and shortstop. Now, I wouldn't rule them out as a potential option for second baseman and shortstops because they need those too. But they seem to like Ahmed Rosario at least enough to give him another chance at shortstop this season.
Keep in mind, they just fired Brody Van Wagenen, so whoever's taking over the reins, Sandy Alderson seems like is going to have the primary say, and whoever they bring in as the next top executive, they may not have that opinion of Ahmed Rosario, so we'll find out about that.
This is true. So we will have to see what happens, but the Mets make sense at least as much as the San Francisco Giants or the Cleveland Indians for Ha-Seong Kim of the Kiwoom Heroes.
I haven't really. You're going to say the gym class heroes or something like that at some point.
No, I really am enjoying saying Kiwoom Heroes on a little bit of declining.
You're enjoying it. You're enjoying it too much.
Yeah.
You can't tell me what I enjoy too much. But anyway, I have not done a whole lot of speculating as to what team he's going to. I've really just been watching videos and enjoying the numbers that he put up in the KBO, which are probably inflated relative to what he's going to do here. He's been a consistent 20 home run guy for the last few years in the KBO. He's probably going to sit around 15-ish in Major League Baseball. He's been a very high walk rate guy in the KBO. He's probably going to, be a reasonably high walk guy in Major League Baseball. Players here are better than there. Shocker to everyone. So he's going to have to adjust the game a little bit. The glove should translate though, and any team that could use an upgrade at shortstop defensively, which is like 27 of them, would love to have him. I could definitely see the White Sox being a team to make a play for him. I know they've got Tim Anderson at short, but Tim Anderson is not a great defender at short. He's a very flashy defender, but he doesn't make all the plays. I could see the Oakland Athletics making a play for Ha-Seong Kim from the Kiwoom Heroes because they are losing Marcus Semien this offseason, and Ha-Seong Kim could be the kind of guy to lead them into the next era of Moneyball. Kiwoom Heroes. Thank you, Jake. I almost forgot. But no, if I had to make an official prediction, I would say that it's the Oakland Athletics on the counts of they are on the West Coast. They will have a hole at shortstop, and they could always use a good leadoff guy. Would anyone like to do point-counterpoint with that?
Point.
Well, let me.
You know more baseball than I do. Counterpoint.
Point.
I don't know. No, I was just going to ask, what about the Blue Jays as a destination for Ha-Seong Kim?
Ha-Seong Kim from where?
They have Bo Bichette though, right? Bo Bichette, the shortstop.
The Blue Jays have a really stacked core of young infielders with about a combined age of, I think, 87. Like, they are super young across the infield. And that's a bunch of guys they believe in between Guerrero, Bichette, Kevin Biggio. Like, they would be wasting their money on Ha-Seong Kim from Cuban Heroes. Unless they wanted to move Bichette over to third base or move Biggio. Biggio could play third base. He's got about 7 positions he can play. So if they wanted to move one of those guys over and then just throw Ha-Seong Kim from the Cuban Heroes into there as a linchpin, hit first or second in that order right in front of guys like Bichette, guys like Guerrero, like that wouldn't be a bad pick. I could see the Blue Jays needing an outfielder, though, to pair with Teoscar Hernandez, more so than another middle infielder.
Do you want to talk about the trade market?
Not the whole trade market, but I do want to talk about Francisco Lindor because he's a big chip. That's a big dude. He's going to fetch a big package. So, where's Francisco Lindor end up? Noke Nick.
Francisco Lindor, I don't know he's a shortstop, right?
Yeah, he's one of the top shortstops in baseball on both ends of the field. He's a Gold Glove winner. He's an MVP candidate. Good.
You tell me, dog, who needs a shortstop?
26 teams.
It's not who needs a shortstop. It's
who can afford him.
Who wants to upgrade and can afford.
The biggest problem with Lindor, and it's a problem only in name, is that he's on the last arbitration. He's already gonna cost a shit ton of money this year because he's gonna negotiate a big fat deal in arbitration, perhaps surpassing Mookie Betts' record of $23 million in a year.
Whoever acquires him is going to have to sign him immediately or within the next couple of months, kind of like how the Dodgers did with Mookie Betts.
It's going to be a Mookie Betts to Electric Boogaloo situation.
Mets, baby.
My official question: If I don't know what I'm talking about, I'm just going to say the Mets, just so y'all know.
I mean,
fair.
The team with the most money is not always the worst choice. I mean,
it can't be a bad guess if they've got the most amount.
A fair portion of the last 20 or 25 championship teams have been built by money.
I think the team to watch could be, I didn't pick them in the shortstop fits. I think the Phillies could be in the mix here. I think the Phillies probably have the better farm system than the Mets, and that might be more enticing to Cleveland. Even though the Mets can outspend the Phillies now, it might not just be the fact that they can pay Lindor whatever he wants, because they're going to have to pay the Indians what they want, and that farm system has been depleted through the Van Wagenen. I think the Phillies are probably the best.
Nick, whatever you're saying, it sounds like somebody.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. I got dogs. That's what I'm doing.
I'm going to mute you for a sec, and then I'll come back to you. Chris, finish your thought.
Well, like I said, I think the Phillies are in the better position from a prospect perspective if they want to make a deal, if they want to move to get somebody that could put them over the top. I think they're a team that can afford him from a trade package standpoint and from a financial standpoint. Even though they're paying Bryce Harper a lot of money, I do think that they're going to be a team that's going to want to have some sort of statement, especially if the Mets and the Braves and the Nationals even are having some sort of significant off-season acquisitions.
Nick, counterpoint. You seem like you had something going on. Some brain thought going on in there in the noggin up there.
I was honestly.
I think it might have just been reverb.
But I'm on the iPhone. I'm the only one who's not on a computer, so forgive me for that.
You're good.
Hey man,
what was the question? I'm sorry.
Chris was saying that the Phillies have the better farm system and could therefore make a better play for Lindor on the trade front, despite the fact that the Mets might have the easier time re-signing into a big fat extension.
I really would don't even have a counterpoint. I probably have to agree with that. I think the Mets are just getting a lot of hype because of the money thing, obviously. But yeah, I think that would be a more logical destination for him rather than just somebody dumping out a bunch of money in front of him.
Now, there is a chance that wherever he goes, he only plays the 1 year, and then the team with the most money has an opportunity in 2021. Damian, do you have an idea of where your buddy Francisco Lindor could end up?
Can I brag a little bit first?
Potential future father-in-law or potential future brother Lindor?
That won't happen anytime soon, I'm afraid. It's not 2011 anymore.
He's going to have to talk to me because I'm sure she can make that happen.
Oh, Caitlin would make it happen in a heartbeat.
Good.
So
I need a better guest on the show than the three of y'all. I would have him on.
So, just to cover all bases, because the two teams that I was thinking that Francisco would end up on are Philly and Toronto. And just to cover all of the bases, since Chris already said Philly, I'm just going to go with the Blue Jays. I don't know why, outside of just reading from what the owners and GMs of Toronto have said about how they feel about Francisco Lindor, and obviously it's hard not to enjoy his play because he's good. And just to further clarify how good he is, in 777 games that he's played with the Indians, he has a 285, 346, and 488 slash line.
Which for a shortstop is bonkers.
138 home runs, 191 doubles, 99 stolen bases, and he has a 98% fielding percentage as a shortstop, 4 All-Star game appearances, 2 Silver Sluggers, 2 Gold Gloves, and a Platinum Glove in 2016.
Stats brought to you by BaseballReference.com.
And by baseball genius, ...
Duh.
But no, if you're looking for something that he doesn't do well on a baseball field, you're going to be looking for a long time.
Yeah.
I think as far as trades are concerned, when we talk about the Mets and their power, I think they could be a player to bring in a guy that might be unwanted because of the financial burden of another team, and it wouldn't cost them. Think of kind of like a Giancarlo Stanton type situation, where maybe if the Rockies don't want to pay Nolan Arenado that sort of money in this market, in this pandemic, or if the Cubs want to get rid of Chris Bryant or someone along those lines because of the money that they're still owed, that's where I think the Mets would be able to capitalize, as to where they wouldn't have to pay a premium. They just have to pay the financial burden of it.
Those are two guys who would make perfect sense for the Mets, both from a financial and from a positional standpoint, given that the Mets don't really have a third baseman they seem to like.
They go with a platoon there. They've played J.D. Davis and Jeff McNeil there. McNeil can move anywhere. He could play second. I think it would be the best fit for him, especially with Cano out all next year. But those are the situations I think the Mets and between free agency and accepting or capitalizing on teams that really need to move money, as opposed to just getting the best players possible. It's taking advantage in those situations where I think you'll see the Steve Cohen factor really come to play.
Those are guys that would make sense for the Mets, perhaps more than for Francisco Lindor. I'm thinking Lindor ends up it's going to have to be somewhere, like you said, that can make a competitive offer with major league talent as well as prospect talent. Damien, you made a great point with Toronto. It's just a matter of would they be willing to give up guys like Bichette or Kevin Biggio. It would take a pretty extensive package to get him. There's a lot of teams that would want him. Obviously, there's 29 teams in Major League Baseball that want Francisco Lindor. I've seen the Yankees as a potential destination. I don't know that they'd be willing to sacrifice what they'd have to sacrifice. I've seen potential deals for Lindor, including Gleyber Torres, and if that was going to happen, there's no way the Yankees do it. They sit with Gleyber before they trade him for Lindor. As good as Lindor is, it's much better than Gleyber as Lindor is.
You just think about the teams that have the financial power, and they really don't need a shortstop. Boston has Xander Bogaerts. The Dodgers have Corey Seager, who is resurgent.
But I've seen the Dodgers as an option for him too, because they've got the stackedest lineup in baseball, the stackedest pitching rotation in baseball, and the most stackedest prospect base in baseball.
You're seeing them linked because they're one of the only teams that can feasibly afford him.
Yeah.
Beyond
there's
next year.
no cap on their payroll, and they've got one of the best farm systems in the entire league.
Yeah.
There's a chance they go and get him.
But I don't think it's necessarily a requirement unless Justin Turner leaves and they move Seager to third to potentially save his legs. I guess that could happen, but that's about the only realistic, tangible scenario in which it makes a lot of sense for the Dodgers.
Turner to second base too in that situation.
Yeah.
Another team that might come up in these trade talks could be the Atlanta Braves. Dansby Swanson's bat is not nearly as good as his glove, and he could end up being the centerpiece of not big centerpiece, but a centerpiece of a package for a guy like Lindor, who, if the Braves wanted to make a run this year and then see what happens financially, and maybe they try to extend it, maybe they don't. They've still got the prospect base to do it, and they've got the need for a more productive shortstop. I could absolutely see them going and grabbing Lindor to go hit second in that lineup ahead of Freddie Freeman. That'd be nasty.
Yeah, that would.
Wow.
Even I know that one. Oh.
That would be spooky for a lot of the teams in the league. I mean, just the thought of him hitting their lineup could go Acuna, Lindor, Freeman, Ozuna.
Oh God.
Yeah, that's scary. And then Travis d'Arnaud. I'm just kidding. I'll give a shit about him. No one cares
That's
about
spoopy.
But he had a nice season in his own right. Shout out to you, Travis d'Arnaud. I know you're watching somewhere because you don't have a life.
He just searches Facebook for a random ass sports group.
I really hope he does see that. I really hope Travis d'Arnaud, MLB catcher, does see this shitsy comment on this shitsy post that it currently has one viewer.
Robbie,
and,
if it makes you feel better, I'll take the video off of YouTube, post it on our Twitter, and tag him and say, "Go to this timestamp."
You could. I don't know why you would. It's not like I called him. It's not like I said he was bad at it. He had a great season last year. He's another one of those guys who had that late career resurgence in a 60-game season. You know, he looked like one of the 10 guys that could be the second best catcher in baseball after Real Muto. So
constant hype around him as a prospect too.
Oh yeah, I mean a lot of these guys. Every catcher prospect has hype coming up, and then like 3 of them deliver on it.
That's so true.
So, gentlemen, any parting shots before we close the show?
Can I just ask a typical question? Can I get everybody? I gotta run everybody's 2021 World Series prediction.
Sure, Damien. World Series 2021.
Oh,
Pirates and who?
I mean, not the Pirates. That won't happen until 2079. Make it 100 years since their last one. Shoot, I don't even know.
We are virtual family Pirates in 2079.
You know, I'll back it and say the Padres are going to get in there, and I couldn't say the other because I don't know the conferences all that much. I couldn't. Yeah.
I think it's
Padres and unnamed American League team. Cool.
Yeah.
Chris?
There's a 1 in 15 chance that somebody
TBD.
ends up playing the from the American League. You only have 15 options. I think it's foolish to bet against the Dodgers right now. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. They can get anyone at any time. They've got youth, they've got experience, they've got elite players at multiple positions. There's no reason to bet against them representing the National League again. The American League is definitely the tougher one to call. Do I expect the Rays to repeat that level of success? You know, their analytics department better hope so, because they, threw away a potential chance to get back in that series because you live by the analytics and you die by the analytics.
Shout out to Loudmouth Sports Talks ahead of the curve host Robbie Phillips on his preseason prediction not to sleep on the Rays.
I'll bite the bullet. I don't like to buy hype teams, but there is something unique about the White Sox. I think that they could be that team next year that rises up and wins the AL. My one concern with them is the Tony La Russa factor. Whether that youth meets one of the oldest managers, if not the oldest manager in baseball, who's already kind of coming in under some skeptical or unpopular circumstances, and whether that all explodes. That could realistically happen. So I'll say tentatively right now, you've got the Dodgers and the White Sox.
I'm going to be that guy. There's no fucking way the Yankees can be hurt at every position for the 4th consecutive year. So I'm going to say it's going to be the Yankees.
Didn't you say that last year?
Yes.
Well, last year I said there's no fucking way they could do it for 3 consecutive
3 years in a row.
Evidently, there was a way. So now I'm saying there's no way. Hopefully, I haven't heard any news about it, but hopefully they've fired their entire training department and replaced it with robots who know the human body. Because this is the most injury-riddled roster I think I've ever seen in any sport at any time. This is worse than, like, my Madden franchise without injuries turned off. Like, everybody's hurt at every position.
Kyle Shanahan says hi and enters the chat.
Kyle Shanahan, you're doing a poor job with a bad roster.
As long as the Yankees don't hire the Chargers training staff,
holy shit, though,
you'll be good.
But no, I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to say Yankees, Dodgers, write it in for the 6th consecutive year. We're going to be wrong again. Nick,
I want to believe in like the Minnesotas or the Oaklands, and then I remember
we didn't have Minnesota for any of those free agents, and
I want to believe in them, and then I remember that what they turn into in the playoffs. It just goes so bad so quick.
Yeah. Well, see, here's the thing with that is they've got a bunch of good pitchers, no really great pitchers, and then when they get to the playoffs, they play a team that can hit, and that team that hits.
No one said Houston for a lot of this either.
They are in that kind of getting shit straight back together era of their franchise, which is just super cool to see.
But my prediction,
struggle hard, Astros.
I've got an interesting choice. The Mets are an NL team, right? National League.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, Mets Yankees in the World Series, New York versus New York. That's my guess.
I don't ever want to see that again. I'm good.
The Giants Jets in the Super Bowl.
Ooh.
If I don't have to ever relive the 2000 World Series, I'm fine with it. I mean, it would be great to have the Mets beat the Yankees in the World Series.
It was Derek Jeter's coming out party.
Except he came out 4 years ahead of that.
No, he came out bigger.
Yeah.
All right, well, lads, I'm going to go to our sponsorships. This episode of Ahead of the Curve brought to you by an empty bottle of Voss water with tap water in it because you want to feel classy, but you don't have any money. Also brought to you by my personal trainer, Jake. He's a good dude. He's got big arms, and he knows how to hit golf balls far. So if you're in the Orlando area and you want a good trainer, hire Jake. But if you want a great trainer, hire someone else.
Pretty loud.
Winner of this contest gets a free T-shirt coming from Bombshell Bowling. It's going to be paid for by one of us, but it's going to be free to the winner. It comes in gray or gray. So we're gonna hope that somebody wins a good-looking gray shirt like that guy up there has. Damien, if he wins, he's going to be donating it to Give Kids the World, or probably not because he's not really super charitable. Everybody who watched, thank you so much. Everybody who didn't watch, I understand. Have a lovely night.